emotional learning encompasses the whole child, and it can be seen in every environment that a child is in. So it looks at emotional regulation, it looks at problem solving skills. Empathy is a big piece of social emotional learning. How we make others feel can help us build those social relationships, as well as improving our problem solving because we're more understanding of others.
And we know that if your home system, if your family system, if your support system is not strengthened, then we know academically you're going to struggle. So we really try to focus on those areas outside of the academics that may have an impact on you academically.
Social emotional doesn't even mean like mental health, like it contributes to their mental health, but it's a lot of skills that they need throughout their life. So they need to be able to cope with adverse situations, like they don't get their way, they have to be able to move on with their day. They have to be able to lose points on a test or have a teacher maybe be upset with them and still be able to move on with their day and cope with it and work through that. Especially on a social emotional level, Brunswick has done a really good job by implementing positions like mine and making sure the counselors are well trained to address the piece that kids need the most, because really if they can't deal with all of that stuff, their academics are going to suffer anyways.
If you improve social emotional learning without doing anything different to your academics, your academic testing standard scores increase.
The ADAMH Board is the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Board, and they had money set aside for county use to work on preventative measures in the area of social and emotional learning for students. We were contacted over the summer. We filled out an action plan and a proposed budget. That was all approved at the end of September, and now we are very excited to be able to implement and move forward with social emotional supports for all of our students. We collaborated and got some feedback and determined that we could use that money to buy a curriculum called Second Step for our middle school students. We also are collaborating with Ohio Guidestone to provide some additional resiliency groups for our students K through 12.
Resiliency is kind of that mindset that says, yes, I can, versus, oh, I'm never going to do this. This is the worst thing ever. So resiliency is a big piece of social emotional learning, and that can impact, again, across all environments, whether it be peer dynamics, academic setting, home environment, in the future work. So if we build those resiliency skills earlier, the likelihood of, a negative impact with mental health or peer dynamics decreases with time.
So resilience is a lot of like how they do cope with things, how even experiencing adversity they can move forward, which also really aligns with a lot of the teachers do growth mindset. So resilience and growth mindset go really well together, so that's been super nice here, because then I'm just like, oh, in growth mindset, well, resilience is the same thing.
In the elementary school, we focus a lot on paying attention, organization, time management within social emotional learning. Some of those skills are often things that aren't taught, and some kids don't have the exposure to it. So when we ask them to practice these skills, they just don't know how. So that's another learning piece that happens within the school building.
A lot of what I like to do, and a lot of what the grant contributes to, is Ohio Guidestone is going to do resiliency groups. So I prefer to work through resilience with the kids because it comes from something called strengths-based. So it's not only evidence-based, it's strengths-based. So it focuses on what they do well, and it focuses on what they already have. And we just sort of jump off of there and build it and maybe adjust a couple things, but constantly talking about what's wrong and like how they're not doing this and not doing that, like, and running from a deficits-based area doesn't help them. I have been looking at how the curriculum is laid out to make sure that it aligns with like the character stuff that we do in school, and maybe like a social studies lesson on good citizenship or something like that. Because if the teachers can kind of use it more and bolster it and be like, hey, remember when we learned that in Second Step? That would be really good for the program, because then the kids will pay more attention.
We are going to be utilizing some of the grant funds that we were graciously given through the ADAMH Board, Medina County, to implement some resiliency groups in partnership with Ohio Guidestone.
These are all positive things that the district is doing. I love going to professional development. I love learning about it and coming back with ways that we can implement and make differences within the district. But we are so cutting edge, I feel, that a lot of times I'm like, okay, we're doing this, which just validates that this is what people are saying needs to be done, and we are already doing it because we want the best for the kids. You know, our mission statement was recently redesigned, and it looks at the whole student, and so those, I think, are just important things that are being recognized.